nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.
Anxiety, filling up every space, no privacy. And silently, it could build and build until you finally see, whoa, it's taking over, damn no closure, moving closer. No exposure, I just wanna be a loner. Some can't stay sober, looking over all their shoulders, like moving boulders just to get out of the home. It sucks, I've had enough, I don't wanna feel it stuck under the rug, all my problems that I shove.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Scopite. Alright, so in this episode I'm going to be going into how to select your clothing for this kind of environment. That's something that isn't talked about a lot. You hear a lot about layering and you hear a lot about starting cold, but what does that really mean? Okay, so we're going to get into clothing and how I select my clothing. Now, I have a multicam alpine jacket. I highly recommend against doing something like this. I got this because this is cool. I always wanted one, but it doesn't make sense in my environment to have a puff jacket that is white. In my AO, if it snows at all, it's going to snow in a 3-month span. So it doesn't really make sense to buy a bunch of white equipment for the chance of it maybe snowing or getting a dusting. So I would recommend against getting an alpine jacket. Definitely go with an overwhite. Now I have the overwhite bottoms. I like these bottoms. They have their issues. I've had these for quite a few years, but they work great and they get the job done. An overwhite top is what I would recommend. Reason for that is because I can wear a jacket that's the same weight as the alpine jacket I have on, but as the snow starts to deteriorate, I can remove this, which weighs almost nothing and packs down to literally nothing, throw this in my pack, and I still have protection from the cold. Once this snow melts, if this is all I have, I'm left hanging out with a big white jacket and everything else is brown and green, so that's not going to work. Highly recommend getting an overwhite top unless your environment is always snowy. If it snows and the snow is going to last for months at a time, then yeah, it would make sense to get a pine jacket. Now, one of my favorite jackets that goes with me literally everywhere is my Wild Things low-loft jacket. Now, the difference between a low-loft and a high-loft is going to be the temperature of warmth. So if you're doing a lot of movement, you're not going to want a high-loft jacket. This is a high-loft jacket. I have another one in multicam, but you're not going to want to wear a high-loft jacket when you're doing a lot of movement, up and down terrain. You're going to want to wear something that's a low-loft jacket, something that provides warmth and breathability and not going to overheat you as you're moving. Very, very durable. I've had this jacket for years. It's got Velcro in the sleeves, so you can put identifiers there. Would not recommend IR flags or IR anything as far as patches. Move away from IR. I've talked about this in an earlier video of mine. I think it was the plate carrier video with the big flag on the front. As night vision starts to get more prolific, I would move away from getting any kind of infrared indicators. Even if you're working on a team, develop another SOP other than, hey, look for the IR flag on my shoulder, because that is just a reflection. Now, I will say those do reflect one direction. So if I have an IR flag on my shoulder and a guy on my 3 o'clock lights me up, the guy at my 2 o'clock isn't going to see that reflection, only the guy at my 3. However, if that guy at your 3 o'clock is not a good guy, you're lit up. Now, after we get done doing our movements and we're going to sit tight for a while, it would behoove you to get into your pack and start layering up, because you're going to sit. That's when you would get into your high-loft stuff. And one thing I highly recommend everybody has in their kit is a pair of high-loft pants. Now, these are from Beyond Clothing, and these are awesome. Super, super warm. They have a zipper that you can get into to help you get into them, so I don't have to throw my wet, snowy boot into my pants. I can literally put these on and wrap them around my leg and zip them up. These are going to keep you warm depending on the environment. I have just slept in these and a high-loft jacket. This is going to keep you about as warm as your sleeping bag-ish. I would still have a bivvy with me, but inside a structure, if you're going to be sleeping in the winter, this is going to keep you pretty warm. This should keep you warm, but it can't be the only thing that's keeping you warm. You got to have systems in place. All right, so underneath this, I have my waffle top, and then underneath that, I have a wool long sleeve shirt. That's going to keep me warm enough doing whatever it is I'm doing. I run hot, so if I have a lot of extra layers on me, I'm going to start overheating and start sweating. Now, it doesn't mean in my pack I don't have extra layers, but those layers are going to go on as needed when being static. When moving, this is going to be more than enough for me, so you need to figure out what's going to work for you. Now let's talk about grain weights. The t-shirt I am wearing is from Kuyu. Really love this brand. They also put their grain weight in their description. That is important to look at. Your grain weight, I found when moving, I can stay warm in very, very cold environments between 120 and 150 grams of merino wool. Like a freaking snow yeti was coming out of the trees there for a second. So 120, 150 grams of merino wool help keep me warm when moving. When static, I'm going to be looking at 180 to 210, anywhere in those areas. I find, depending on long sleeve, short sleeve, or whatever, is going to keep me warm. Now, this is Prima Loft. This isn't duck down. If you're doing any kind of tactical work, I would stay away from duck down. Go with a synthetic loft that doesn't absorb water, that's antimicrobial. It's not going to start stinking after a while. I can do an ice breaking drill and fall into the water with this thing, and it is still going to keep me warm. That's the beauty of synthetic. So your high loft jackets like this are going to be in the 200 to 210 gram weights, and that is going to be plenty for me, especially with gloves. Anything I'm doing that's going to be static, 200 grams is going to be plenty for me. Gloves, masks, jackets, pants, socks, everything. When I am picking out gear that I'm going to be sitting static for a while, I'll make sure everything is in that same weight category. And on the flip side, if I'm going to be doing movements and I'm going to be doing a lot of rucking, a lot of snowshoeing, anything like that, I am going to start moving that weight up. So I'm going to be going lighter. This is something I highly recommend that you buy at an affordable price. Try it out before you go and buy a whole suit of these items. You don't know how your body is going to react, or how warm or how cold you're going to get. So think of it smart. You're not Uncle Sam. You don't have his dime. Don't go and buy a whole bunch of stuff and then realize, hey, this is too hot, or it's not warm enough. As far as the pants, I have the Kuyu merino wool base layer. I think these are the 120s. Don't quote me on that. I don't like having really heavy bottoms because my legs get really hot and it restricts movement. But with the Kuyus, I don't feel the restriction. Over top of those, I have the Equic level 5 soft shell pants. And then with the Overwhite bottoms. Boots and socks. I always go merino wool socks. I would stay away from cotton socks. But you can buy a water sock that will help keep your foot dry if you do not have a Gore-Tex boot. Which, if you don't have a Gore-Tex boot out here, what are you doing? I recommend a Gore-Tex boot and something with high loft. Again, we're going back to that weight. It's very important when you're talking about keeping warm. Now, I use Solomon's. I know some guys use Loa's. Loa has a tactical winter boot that is really warm. My buddies in the Canadian military really like them. All right, so that's going to move us into headgear. There's nothing like a good beanie. And there are a lot of different companies make beanies. And this is a 100% merino wool beanie. And I found this has been the most comfortable. I can wear this all day. I don't get, that scalp irritation that you get with a lot of acrylic beanies. So a beanie this thick isn't going to be great for movement. This is going to be great when you're static, sitting still, looking through glass. that's when you're going to want to possibly put on the bigger thick beanie. But you got to be careful because we have precipitation right now, and you can probably see it on this beanie, but as this starts to absorb snow, it's going to get wet, and that's not good. I do have a soft shell beanie. A lot of times I'll use it under my helmet for the snow or for the rain, or if I'm just sitting, I'll just put on that soft shell beanie. Again, when you're selecting your beanie, you're going to want to look at the gram weight of it. And again, if you're sitting static, maybe look at that 200 or that 180 mark. And if you're moving, I would say something very, very thin, just like a merino wool, thin merino wool beanie. That's going to let you breathe and not keep your head hot. Gloves, everybody's favorite. I hate wearing gloves. I think gloves suck when it comes to doing any kind of fine motor skills, and it always seems like I have to do something, adjust knobs or just little knobs or turrets on my rifle. And when I have a glove on, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. But I love having them because my hands are the first things to get cold. And when my hands get cold, these absolutely help keep them warm. Now, these are the Outdoor Research Firebrand gloves. These are my second pair of these. And I always go back to these because they are very comfortable. They're very warm. And I like the soft shell properties on the back of the hand as well as the genuine leather on the front. Or you're doing any kind of woodwork or anything that's hot, I can use this glove to touch it, and it's not going to burn right through my glove to a certain extent. Obviously, you're not going to want to grab a suppressor off a belt fed. I mean, use common sense. So these gloves do come with a liner. These liners by themselves can be enough depending on the temperature and what you're doing. But the two in conjunction work great. I have found that even these are still not warm enough, especially in very cold temperatures and high winds. So I will opt for this USGI issue wool gloves. These are enough to keep your hands warm. I mean, obviously you're not going to do a lot of work with them, but if you're just going to be outside shoveling snow for 30 minutes to an hour, these are actually pretty good. But these in conjunction with the Firebrand gloves I found to be plenty warm. And I'll show you how I put those on. All right, so I'll make sure I have all right hands here. These don't really matter if you have a right or left glove. I mean, they're the same. They're cut the same. Put the liner on. Just like that. And then I go ahead and put on the Firebrand liner. And I put that over top of my jacket, just like this. Now I'm going to take the soft shell, put that over top, and then I can cinch this down and keep the snow out. This is my dexterity. It's not the best, especially when shooting rifles. But when you're static, you're not on a gun. It's not like you're doing CQB and you're clearing structures. I mean, you're sitting there and maybe you might have to shoot. You can shoot with this glove. It's not the best. If you're going to be anticipating contact, I would go ahead and change out my glove to a fighting glove. Pig winter gloves I've found are okay. They are not great for wintertime, but if you had to take your hand from a nice warm glove and put it into, say, the pig winter glove to conduct actions on target and then go back to this, you should be fine. All right, guys, one more thing I failed to mention, but I would highly recommend keeping in your pack and in your gear is a set of electronic hand warmers. I get these things off of Amazon. I think they're like 15 or 20 bucks, fairly inexpensive. They make great gifts, especially for the ladies that are always cold. But you can recharge them, and they have a low, medium, and hot setting, and they are great for keeping in your jackets or in your fighting positions to help keep your hands warm. The hot hands are great, but they wear out, and you have to keep a crap load of them in your pack in order to sustain that heat. Hand warmers are something that I would highly recommend keeping in with your gear. So guys, this isn't everything that you need. There's definitely more stuff. This is just a primer to give you an idea of stuff that you could keep with you and how to select that gear. Also, that you need different gear for moving and sitting still. Anybody who's been in the military knows that you will do a lot of movement and then you will sit for a long time, especially if nobody organizes trans. So you need to have the gear with you, especially if you're going to be doing reconnaissance. You're going to move to your LPOP and then you're going to sit on that LPOP. So definitely have gear that's going to keep you alive and keep you effective when you're sitting still, and then have that gear that's going to keep you alive and effective when you're moving. You do not want to become a casualty. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out with me in another episode of Scope Bite. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe on these videos. I'm glad I can be here to help you guys get your kits set up and get the gear and the knowledge that you guys need to be effective when that fight comes to you, because you don't get to pick the fight or the environment. So thanks again for watching. Until next time, see you.